And we're back one last time for tonight as we're heading into the third game of today here at the Elite Series League of Legends 2nd Division. But of course, before we get to that, let me re-invite back to my side Fresh Tana. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. It's nice to be with you here, and especially we will go out with a bang with Dynasty against Rift Slots. What a matchup! What a great series to end with, and I'm so excited. I love both teams. There are so many individuals I really like, and yeah, it will be such an amazing game to watch.
Yes, absolutely. The return game between those two teams which have been very active social media, I mean on Twitter most specifically. In the latest memoir, you can see what they've been up to. I definitely invite you to check that out. Really fun stuff being brought there. And a very important match as well. It's for Dynasty, the chance at pulling Rivslovs back down at the same spot as them and Oma. Meanwhile, for Rivslovs, it's the shot at being able to like more or less definitely disparate themselves from Oma and Dynasty. So we'll have to see how that goes for both teams. But there's definitely a lot going on for that match, not in terms of not tournament-wise, but there is a lot riding on it from a pure glory and honor standpoint, which I think both teams want to do their best to get in.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember that, but actually Dynasty won their first game against Rift. I mean, it's the only loss Rift Slots got is so far. So Dynasty so far is the Kingslayer, you could say. I mean, they just gave them the first and only loss so far, and with that, Rift Slots definitely want to win this game, just to win like the re-round. And Dynasty definitely wants to show the world that they are the Kingslayer. I mean, how good is that they just will win against like the strongest team in the league so far? And I even believe, but it could be wrong, but didn't Dynasty won against Aoma? No, they didn't.
No,
But I
I
will
believe it.
check. No, they played 1-1, so they lost the first day, but they won the second, and with that they even slain the second like big king of this league. So maybe they're just Kingslayers.
Maybe they are, and we'll have to see soon if they can uphold that title for now, because I believe also it's their last shot at doing so, because not tomorrow, but in 2 days, on Friday, they're going to be playing against Reapers, and they're going to do that next week as well, and then they have, well, suppose a match against Adverse, but that results in an automatic win for Dynasty then. So it's their last shot at being able to definitely grab that Kingslayer title for themselves here in the 2nd division of the Elite Series League of Legends.
Yeah, so it will be a banger matchup, and I'm so excited to see when we start in the draft. And I mean, we can do some bold predictions. I mean, Dark Unique played a lot of Varus in the last couple of games, so we might see a Varus again. We might see the Wukong from Skellen again, who knows? And then, of course, I think like Frankie played a lot of Oriana, so we maybe see Oriana, who knows? Just to throw in some bold predictions if they stick to their team comp. And I think to predict what Rivsloth's play is almost impossible. I mean, they just always pick like a rabbit out of the hat, like with the Swain bot lane, with the Gwen last time top lane, or I believe like they played 2 rounds of Misfortune at least, so maybe Kinetic plays a third game Misfortune. That's at least a small prediction from me, but it's tough to say.
Yes, I mean, they definitely do have quite a lot of versatility in their pocket. I also really like you mentioned Dark Unique on his Varus. And it's very funny because Varus was picked in the first game of Sloths vs Dynasty, only that it wasn't Dark Unique. getting him, but it was Sniller. We had that little surprise there from Dynasty,
Crazy.
which I think definitely played into the hands against Rifslov. So maybe we'll see some craziness on their side as well. Maybe breaking from their usual mold to go up against Rifslovs. Who knows? We'll see that in the champs leg. But I'm definitely hyped to see what's to come.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't thought that we had Varus as support, but we had one, and that's always surprising to see. I mean, I casted some LCK, and ADCs on bot lane are just normal there, but I believe in those like lower skill regions or just second divisions and stuff. We just see normal supports normally, so just Sniller on Varus duty is always amazing to see that he just picks up those craziness. So hopefully we see something crazy again, because I believe that to win against Rift, you can't just draft normally. I think you need to surprise them. You need to get something that they wouldn't expect, so they might play a little bit weaker or something. I don't know. It's hard to win against Rift Lords, but Dynasty did it once, so maybe they do it twice. Who knows?
Yes, definitely. And I think we're at that point in this split where both teams have seen each other play quite a bit. They've played against each other only once, but it's very fair to assume that both teams are going to watch other matches from their main contestants. So get a hold on how they tend to play, what they tend to pick, try to suss out what could weaken them eventually already in Champ Select. So I think we're going to have already a lot of action, so to say, in that Champ Select, see how each react to one another. But yeah, we're currently waiting on a player. I'm being told here from production, so we'll have to stay tuned. But while we have it, Stana, we've mentioned the two junglers of this game early on as being some of the top players here in this division. What do you think we can expect from them? Maybe in terms of pick bans, I think we have Skeln, for example, who played quite a lot of Wukong. It's maybe an interesting ban on sides of Rifslovs to get that out of the equation. What do you think?
I believe that could be one way to handle Skeln, at least a little bit. And like, there are not that many crazy bans you need to do against Dynasty. I think you can just stick to meta bans, and Wukong is definitely a meta ban, or at least a ban you can afford. So that would be one way, but of course Scan has a wide champion pool with the Listen, with the Y. We saw, I think, 1 or 2 times. I think he played a couple of Maokai games in the league so far, and I think we didn't saw a single Nidalee game right now, but he is definitely quite known for his Nidalee. So maybe in the right situation, it could be a deciding factor to give him his Nidalee. We need to see that, but yeah, definitely this jungle matchup is quite important in this round. But let's go through every single lane and just talk about like who we see ahead of each other. Like if we start with top lane, I think it's SquarePants against Lex.
Yes.
Who do you believe is the stronger top laner in this matchup?
I think it's very hard to say. Both are really good, but I do give it to Lex. I personally have seen more of him, having followed the Luxembourg tour as well. While I'd say Lex might not be the star that shines most for Rifslovs, he is definitely always constant. I don't think there is any game where he is a potential losing factor for the Rifslovs. He usually performs really well, plays really well his lane, helps out his team when needed. I think he's a solid rock, which Rifslovs can rely on, so I'd give it to him compared to SquarePants here.
Yeah, I would think so as well, and I think SquarePants is probably like the weak side player of Dynasty. If I look at this team, like Frankie and Dark Unique are so important for his game and for the gameplay of Dynasty, that especially with scaling this trio really are like the big carries of the team. So I think Scrap Hands like is kind of like the not that bright shining star like you said about Lex. And I think but Lex in this situation is like a little bit stronger. I mean, they both are maybe not the brightest star of the lineup, but Lex is probably like a little bit stronger, like from an individual standpoint. So I think top lane matchup goes a little bit to Rift, and I think it's fair to say that you couldn't really say any like favorite in the jungle. I think both are definitely on the same level, and both definitely like carries a lot in the early game. I think Scan always finds like the first blood for his team, goes for a lot of those crazy in-lane ganks from bot side, for example, and just is always there where his team is needing him. But all of those things you can say about Lamar as well. I mean, this guy is incredible. Has a lot of like this mid lane jungle synergy. We see a lot of them like just going for those mid lane ganks and just bringing Buchan ahead. So I think it's fair to say that the jungle matchup is pretty even.
Yes, definitely. They're both very solid. They also cover quite some ground in terms of their great picks, so to say. I don't think I could give it to either of them, because they're both just incredible. And then going to the mid lane, I have to say, well, Frankie does pack quite a punch, has quite a level. Khan is just an absolute unit, in my opinion. Just being so strong on so many champions on that mid lane. His versatility is through the roof. On the mid lane, I would definitely give it to Buchan, though.
Okay, yeah, and it's the battle of the guys from the Netherlands. I mean,
yeah,
it's a matchup. Both come from the Netherlands, where on the other lanes, like we have a couple of countries. So, but they both come from there, and so it's definitely who is the better Dutch player. I mean, that's a little bit interesting at least, and I think it's not that clear. I definitely like Buchan, and I definitely like when he was on Silas. He had incredible like performances on the Yon, for example. So definitely it's fair to say that he could be like the favorite, but Frankie gives so much to Dynasty that it wouldn't like too clear for me, but I just couldn't decide it. Like it's like jungle matchup. They are both on almost the same level in my opinion. So it's difficult to say, but let's talk about the botlane situation. I think we cannot just talk about one of them. We need to talk about the general botlane matchup. And I think it's really hard to say because they both have an incredible support.
Yes.
I think Batu definitely is one of the strongest supports in our league and has so many like crazy picks. He plays the Heimerdinger, plays the Swain, he plays so many like different champions and brings a lot of spice into it. But I mean, if we talk about great supports in the league, Nilla on the Cillian got the MVP, and he is just such an amazing player. He always knows where to be, and so it's really hard to say. And then from bot laner's perspective, Kinetic and Dark Unique are like evenly matched. So this bot lane situation, at least in my opinion, is even as well.
Yes, I do agree with that. Both bot lanes incredibly solid. I would say I'd give the benefit of the doubt to Dynasties, because they have this bot lane. They were able to surprise SLOTHS with their bot lane once, with that kind of surprise Caitlyn Varus bot lane type of situation. So just because of that one time where they were able to pull a fast one onto SLOTHS bot lane, I would give it to them. But it's like the solidity of this argument is as much as one of a sheet of paper, so it's not much. Definitely, I mean, both teams in general very equal in terms of skill on pretty much every position, and of course, to finish it up, I think we can mention maybe take a look at the team work or the teamwork in general. And I think again, both teams generally move around together very solidly. Those are the teams where you always see a cross-map play when something happens. So communication is definitely on point for each of them. And you've already mentioned it. It's for those junglers, for the supports as well, always there when they're needed, where they're needed. Just absolute immaculate communication between those teammates.
Yeah, I mean, we have some informations from the production, but I can't really say anything about the questions being asked. So I have no more infos than you. So we probably are waiting at the moment a little bit for some players. I don't know. So that's the reason why we talk so much. Normally we go straight up into chat select most likely, but when you just hear us talking for like 10 minutes or something, then probably we are waiting. Just for the viewers out there. So we analyzed like both teams entirely. So now when we come to a conclusion, like, do you have a clear favorite? Is it everything open and both teams can win, or is there like anything where you would say just a small edge, or I don't know, just what is your conclusion out of this analysis?
I think SLOTHS might have a small edge, although Dynasty did take the first win. But those are two teams that are so closely tied. I believe it's going to end up in a 1-1. There is that. Plus, they have this drive now of taking back that revenge match, which I think vengeance is a great motivator. But of course, it's not an indefinite one, but it is a great motivator, at least for one game. And I think with that hand, they should be able to maybe come atop slightly, but it's like this tiny bit of an advantage I think they get from it.
Yeah, and then like there's the statistical stuff. Like Dynasty already won against them, so they have a small edge because of that. But Dynasty lost 2 games already against other teams, while Rift Slots didn't lost a single game against another team. So you could say, statistically speaking, Rift Slots had a little edge, but they already lost against them. So it's really, it's maybe one of the most exciting games we could have. Like, those two teams really want to win this game, and those two teams are really strong. So it's probably one of our tightest matches.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to name a favorite. I mean, oh man. And we maybe have an info, but I don't know if I can talk about it. Anyway, so we need to wait a little bit more. So that's something. And with that, if we just look at the stats, I mean, Rift Slots, if we just look at the upcoming schedule, needs to play against Once Upon a Team 2 times. And I mean, it's fair to say that Rift Slots will probably win both of them. It's the most likeliest outcome. And then they need to play a Roma, so they have a tough opponent on their last match day. So that's something to look out for. And with that, they could go like 4-0. They could go like 3-1. Maybe even if they lose to Dynasty and Roma, they could still like go for a 2-2 this the next like 4 match days. And Dynasty gets like 1-3 win against Adverse, plays against Reapers and twice. So they have kind of the rougher schedule. If you look about like playing against Reapers is tougher than playing against Once Upon a Team. And then like they have a 3 win where they don't get anything. So for Dynasty, it's really important to not drop games, because maybe there's a chance to still get out of it. I mean, they are not that easily locked. If they just lose 3 games now and Reapers win 3 games, then there's still a position to be tied. But it's quite likely that they just get into playoffs anyway. And yeah, so schedule looks tougher for Dynasty. But but Rift Slots will have still the chance to get first place. I mean, if they don't drop a single game from now, they have just one less lose than every single team. So still first place ahead of them.
Yes, definitely currently in that sort of upper position, but of course everything can be shaked. We're just one loss away from being thrown back into the mix along with Oma and Dynasty. And for Dynasty, this one win would mean like pulling back up in the upper part of this ladder, because of course if Riftsloths win, they're for now definite on the first spot with 10 points, followed up by Oma with 9 points, and then Dynasty would be sitting at the third spot for 8 points. I think that would be the first time we completely break that first or upper ladder chain where they're all tied. But yeah, we'll see that very soon as we're starting to get started here. Coming into Champ Select.
Oh, and the Senna ban. I mean, that's a little bit surprising at least, but I think Senna came back on this patch with like those Jogard and Tam Kench lanes, so just they don't want to play against that, and I really like this Varus ban. I mean, they lost to Varus support already, so they don't want to lose it again against it. And then of course Dark Unique plays a really strong Varus, so just banning it out makes a lot of sense. And we have so many big support bans coming out. I mean, if you count this Varus as a Varus support ban, then we have 3 support bans already, and there is the Lee Sin, so they kind of fear Lee Sin a little bit more than the Wukong. And if Wukong is open, we might see a Wukong first.
Absolutely, and we have already quite a bit of a focus on the bot lane. Of course, very strong bot lane on both sides, while Dynasty puts a lot of focus on Batu, who's a very solid player. Now we have the Kassadin ban specifically for Bakan, the champion. He's very strong on. We've seen, I believe, once in the Elite Series here. And now Caitlyn ban, another AD carry ban. So we definitely see the focus of both teams here. And Dynasty does get that Wukong pick in the end. And if it's not banned, they might as well pick it for Scum. It's his most played champion, I believe, in the Elite Series League of Legends here. And champion is really good on. I mean, Wukong overall has a very solid clear, very strong gang starting level 6, especially with the Cyclone, which is just such a powerful tool.
Yeah, and I already predict that Frankie might go for the Orianna. And then they could be like the Siders pick against Orianna Wukong. So just stealing those ultimates, especially with Misfortune, you have plenty of like wombo combo potential. So they might try to like lure them into this Orianna Wukong, which Dynasty plays a lot, and just try to go for the Siders as a counter pick to the Orianna, and of course to steal those great ultimates. So that would be at least one way to maybe just bamboozle them, to trick them into the same draft like Dynasty does every single time, and just to maybe get a good outcome for themselves. So I'm really interesting to see if my prediction is right. And like with Sari Lulu, they definitely have a good like late game carry with a good support there. So I quite like the Dynasty draft, and they don't show the Orianna already, so they don't want to being tricked. And there's Bukan's chase, and I think we saw him in the last game against Pertinex, where he went really crazy and won his lane against Merlin and stuff. So Bukan definitely knows how to play this champion.
Yes, definitely. Now with the second ban phase, few more bans coming in against Batu on sides of Dynasty. They really did not want to give him his way. And yeah, I mean, looking at that Misfortune, you can already maybe suss out a few potential picks for them, get some nice bans there. Meanwhile, we focus now on sides of Riftsloths to get Bakan a very chill lane on his Jace there.
And I think they really want to get this Orianna. I mean, they just banned out Silas. They just banned out Orianna, Syndra and Asia. Oh man. So Orianna is still open for Frankie, and it's one of his best champions. It would fit into the team comp, and just because Khan already won one time against Oriana. It was against Merlin. So he's just comfortable on this kind of like lane setup. So they maybe want to trick them into it. And I think Dynasty probably lost one banning right because of the delay. So that's why we don't see the last ban. And I really like the Swain. I mean, you had so many support bans coming out, but Swain is the opponent. I mean, Misfortune Swain worked one time for Rift Sloth, so why not just go for a second time?
Yeah, I mean, it's very AoE heavy bot lane. Definitely getting the damage out there. You have some CC for that Misfortune as well, so that's very nice though. And here we might have the Oriana. They get baited into it. Khan should be confident. The bans worked. I think Riftsoft's strategy out there worked for now. Very nice.
Yeah, I mean, that was easy to predict for me. I thought we see it a little bit faster, but there's the Oriana, so at least I was right with Wukong Oriana. And we have Square Pants, and I think we talked about it on just weak siding top laner. So both top laners are quite a weak sider for their teams, but especially with the last pick, we can place Lex on a really good matchup, and Gwen is really strong against Sion. I mean, you can just dodge the Qs with your area thingy where you are just untargetable, because you can just place it outside of the Q and just don't get knock up, just don't get stunned and stuff. So that's a good matchup. You can always just dash out of the Q. You have a lot of true damage against a really big tank. So I really like the matchup for Lex. So they have a winning side lane. They have probably a winning side lane on mid lane as well, just because Jace should be winning in most of the times against Oriana, and we already saw him doing that against Merlin. And then bot lane, I mean, Sari and Lulu isn't really like the hard-winning lane, because they are just scaling. And Misfortune and Swain can definitely pack a punch in the early game. So we have 3 losing lanes for Dynasty, with a lot of scaling, but especially like top lane won't get outscaled. And yeah, it's tough, man, playing with 3 losing lanes. So Lilia might goes for a lot of invades, can gank a lot, and has a lot of help from the laners. So most likely some of those objectives will go to Rift Slots, and that's exactly what they want. I mean, they are such an aggressive team. They win a lot of games just by pure domination, and with 3 winning lanes, they have all they need, I think. So better draft, in my opinion, for Rift Slots.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely want to go for that early game aggression. I think it is the Lilia might fit well in there as well, because of the just quick clearing speed she can pack. Should definitely get ahead of that Wukong in terms of clearing, especially in the early game, which does give you this opportunity of getting quite a few nice ganks in, or just going to annoy Scalm, because we've talked about both junglers being very good players, so having everything at your disposal in order to handicap the enemy jungler here is also a very good advantage you have. But we will see how it all pans out as we're headed into the game, ladies and gentlemen. Last game of tonight, Dynasty versus Rift Sloths. 2 very strong teams, top of the ladder teams. Will Dynasty be able to pull Rift Sloths back down at same level as them and Oma, or will Rift Sloths be able to get their way and definitely stand on top of the second division here at the Elite Series League of Legends?
Yeah. I'm really excited to see this game. I mean, it's so amazing to see such great teams, and yeah, I would really like just to be a viewer, but I will need to cast it. So, or I want to cast it. I mean, that's amazing as well. But just being a viewer right now must feel insane to see those 2 great teams. And I think Dark Unique is on one of his signature champions, definitely. And R2 already is on a signature champion. I mean, he just played it twice, but he was really good on it. So I quite like it. We have like the Orianna Wukong, which worked really well for Dynasty every single time. But they have 3 losing lanes, and that's always risky to draft because you really don't want to fall behind with such a draft. And it's easy to fall behind if you have no winning lanes because waves just get pushed in. Your lane setup is probably weaker, so you get out-traded and stuff. So that could be a rough one if they don't get a good early game.
Absolutely, and we can see that Riven on that bot lane is already trying to look for the aggression, pushing them in already quite a bit, looking for that early level 2. We have the hook coming in already, a lot of damage falling on to Snilla very early in the game, but now it's Batu who has to be very careful, not flash, but heal, falling for the Rift Sloths. Yeah, already very aggressive start there.
Yeah, so 1 summoner for nothing right now for Dynasty. And the bad thing is to just go for the support, because meanwhile the ADC of course can hurt you. So you normally want to focus down an ADC to just not get traded back. So they just traded health from Batu against health from Snilla. One of course has a lot of shields to be a little bit healthy, but the other has a little bit of life stealing, so they both can sustain just nicely a lot. And like we said, both top laners are weak-sided, so we have both junglers playing around their bot side right now. So probably nothing will happen on the top lane, and we will just having Lex out farming Square Pants. He is probably the better player in a better matchup, so there will stuff happen on the top lane, especially if they are isolated, just because he can outplay this matchup then a lot more. Oh, good poking.
So we have already once again some damage falling, this time around on Dark EQ. Scan is just around the corner, so if things were to look rough, he could swoop in. In the meantime, Liao already set up to get that first Scuttle Crab on the bot side. I believe Scam was already sure this is what's going to happen, so he just didn't waste any time. Is heading towards the top side Scuttle, but now Liao is also already there, and that's just the strength of Lilia. Both junglers might meet here in the jungle, but I don't think Scully is going to look for too much trouble, as Lex does have the prior there. Might look to steal it, goes in with the smite. I believe this went to Liao, however.
Yeah, and it's the double scuttle. I mean, back then double scuttle was broken. Now, nowadays double scuttle is just, it's fine to get 2 camps, but back then, like, if a jungler didn't get both scuttles, you just lost your early game. So that looks tough for scale. You can see it on the farm. So he will be just 2 camps behind, and that's just because he has like losing lanes. So he can't really contest those scuttles if the enemy laners have always the move. So it's just a little bit dangerous for him to contest the Lilia there. And like those AP junglers like Lilia or like Nilise, for example, like a Maokai, like Mordekaiser, those AP junglers are usually really good against Wukong, just because Wukong's passive grants him armor, but in those AP matchups, of course, his passive becomes a little bit weaker, just because he doesn't get magic resistant. He gets just armor, so those AP matchups are tougher than those AD matchups.
Absolutely. Now Liao, having done his first back, is already there with some more AP to hit those camps a bit harder. And the, let's say, the CSing race between junglers has officially started with this game.
Yeah, and I think you definitely can see that both teams are on the same level. So there are not really much which happens in the early game. Both teams just farming, they just laning, and they don't do like those simple misplays where the enemy team just can react to it and punish you, and they don't go for risky plays because they know the enemy team is strong, so they will not risk like anything too much at least. And what I really liked to see was that SquarePants at least hold the line in this top lane matchup. I mean, he gets out farmed. That's true.
Oh, here we have a lot of damage falling onto Snilla, and damage comes out with Flash behind him to get the first blood onto Kinetic.
Oh no, but he stopped one of his auto attacks, so he like cancelled the first one and at least got the second. But that would be like a painful mistake if he would have.
And we go for the dive, but Skal is just around the corner in order to have a teammate. Dark UniQ does get killed. Now Batu has to be very careful, very low. They do get the kill before Skal can finish him off, and that's 2 kills onto Kinetic. Skal seems to have a DC just at that moment.
If he didn't get the kill because of the CC, that would be so unlucky. But still, it was a well-played dive from SLOTHS, just juggling the aggro really well and just getting the second kill on the Lulu really fast, and then of course getting out of the turret, so the turret aggro was dropped in the end, and they could just fight this Wukong as three-man unit. So that worked really well. I don't think that something would have changed if Skal would have gotten a kill. It's just 1 for 3 in the end, and especially Dark Unique loses so many creeps under the turret right now, so there would be a lead in any case, and just 1 kill trade, I mean, is fine for Wukong, but probably in the crater area wouldn't change too much, but we need to see how this game will like end up. I think yeah, they will just start it, and yeah, nothing will happen. I think in the LEC, maybe if something would have happened, there's like this really cool thing, like it's called, oh, I'm not allowed to talk. Oh, I'm allowed to talk now. It's like the chrono shift. I don't know if you ever saw it, but when there's like a game-breaking bug, then they can just shift the game back to a different point. And it's crazy because they just rewind in-game, and I can't believe that something like that is possible. And it's so crazy to see sometimes. Anyway, Garen gets engaged here.
Yeah, again, John Tuscan, who was in all peace of mind doing that scuttle, but Lex decided to join in as Liao went in, and they pick up kill on the enemy jungler. And Rift's Love starting really strong in this early game, already a 3k gold lead with only 2 kills, because we have Lex top lane with an already pretty insane CS lead here of 20 CS. The jungle slowly building up, and the rest of the lanes also very small, but not too big of a lead. But Lex here with a very strong lead.
Yeah, and he is freezing, and that's so painful for SquarePants, because with this freeze, he can just like sit really safely for ganks and deny some CS. He will probably just freeze this wave as well. I mean, SquarePants can try to break the freeze, but every time he just walks forward, he will just get traded. So this Gwen is really painful in those tank matchups. And I mean, I worked with Scale like for a whole split, and one thing I definitely know about him, if he is behind, yeah, the gameplay really like gets a little bit weaker, because he likes to play from ahead. I mean, every single player likes to play from ahead, but Scan is, especially, and we saw it in the winning games of Dynasty, if he is ahead, he can do so many things, but from behind, especially like the engages, gets tougher and tougher, because you are not that tanky, so you sometimes believe you can go in, but you can't. So that's always a dangerous thing to be on an engaged champion, and you don't have like the stats to engage. And so Dynasty definitely needs to try to play a little bit safe and to not like get stomped over.
Yes, and they're doing rather well now. Situation has calmed a bit. They're playing a lot safer. They were able to grab that first Drake. As an answer, Rift decided to go for that Herald on the top side of the map. The cross map plays once again, although the Herald was a bit later. Now Scan looking for lane gank here on the bot lane, as Snilla was able to suss out any wards if there were any.
No. And we even saw it, that he tries to go in with the W, but didn't get it. So that's why the camera wasn't shifting, but now there's engaged on Dark Unique.
Liao on the mid lane, but with Drowsiness effect, they gets the sleep onto Dark Unique and Snilla, and we grab that kill for Batu, and now Skeln in there, very nice ball time, but it won't hit too many people for too long. Batu starting to get low, decides to fall bang. That's a kill for SLOTHS again.
Yeah, really, really well played from the SLOTHS. I mean, they have 4k gold already after just 10 minutes. And they will just increase it further and further. Because the lanes are that easy to play. I mean, top lane is winning like through the whole game. There's not a single time where Sion even gets close to be even in such a matchup. And then mid lane somehow will outscale the Jace in the team fights, because Orianna Shockwaves are really dead insane, but especially in the early game it should just get a little bit dumped on. But he's really good in CSing right now.
You can see here, Lax versus SquarePants 1v1, just the absolute damage. Oh, barely survive here after the snip. But then forces SquarePants to back and use his TP to get back on lane.
Yeah, but he was greedy. He was greedy, he didn't ghost it. So if he just ghosts from the start, he gets this one auto attack a little bit sooner. With this one auto attack, he gets the fully stacked Q. And after that, he can even walk under the turret with the movement speed and just do the last auto attack. So because he thought he will get the kill, he didn't ghost it. And because he didn't ghost, he didn't get the kill. So he was a little bit greedy with such a low cooldown. But in the end, it doesn't matter. I mean, he still wins the lane, and one kill doesn't really matter in the matchup. But he could have went for the kill if he just had to ghost the sign.
Yes, so now Liao showing his face on the top lane. We can just see how quickly Liao was able to leverage a small CSing lead in terms of clear speed. Look at that lead that now has become pretty big, pretty large, over 30 minions. And that's simply because once you get that Lilia started, you just start clearing so fast, and the small advantage will grow in a big one in terms of clearing speed.
And you can see how Skeln really wants to help the spot lane. He really wants to play around one of his carriers at least, and he goes for those gangs. He wants the sweeper from Snilla just to sweep the free brush, just to be safe that nobody sees him, and he tries his hardest, but in the end there's Lydia as well, and with the Herald now they can even try to go for this turret.
Yes, the charge does not finish it. We do get all the plating switch already. A pretty good start, get some more damage in, and we go for the turret. A very nice lilting lullaby inside into a bullet time. Get a lot of damage onto Snilla, but Skeln is there just in time to Cyclone Rift SLOTHS away and that tower dive preemptively, because that hurt a lot. But in the meantime, they're able to finish up that turret, get the first turret of the game, and now go for the kill onto Snilla. Dark Unique now all alone is also not going to survive. Almost does get the kill on Kinetic though.
Yeah, what a good 2v2 there, and that's always like a little misplay if you go for the all-in after your turret is gone. I mean, if you try to hold turret and go for the all-in, you at least get some turret shots in. But they really waited, and then the tower was gone, and then I think Snilla got rooted, and after that they tried to go for something. So they could have tried to save the turret there, but it was rough, and now it's 7-0. They will probably lose the Drake to SLOTHS, and it's just 6k gold after 40 minutes. It's so tough. And there's not really a good way out. I mean, they might outscale in the late game, but I don't believe that they will get to it, just because SLOTHS is really clean in like converting those victories, at least if the enemy isn't 13x, because then it gets a little bit tough in the base race. But yeah, it's It's really a great performance here by SLOTHS, and they just are crushing right now.
Yes, absolutely, and they already have a first turret on the bot lane. They now have their bot lane rotating towards the top to get that one, playing this very cleanly, as you've already said, to not only get the money in their pocket, but also get that push going already, because they are kind of on a timer indeed. But they currently have a lot of leeway to get it done. Now Liao coming into the top lane for that tower dive, and he once again lilting a lullaby into that bullet time. Snilla, the unfortunate, has to take it a second time, but what a devastating combo.
Yeah, and that's actually a really nice combo, just because the sleep doesn't get procced by the bullet time, because it's just an AoE effect. It will not proc this ultimate. So they will just sleeping under the bullet hell and just get killed from it. And that's such a really strong wombo combo there.
And you can't do anything about it, and it's a really powerful CC, which if you play your cards correctly, you can get it on so many members.
Yeah, and that's why they picked it up, right? They just and especially if we look at like Swain, I mean, if he is in this ultimate, he will not proc it either. So there's even more of this like damage over time effects, where they will just never proc the sleeping lullaby, even the E from Misfortune. I mean, it will not deal a lot of damage, but it will not proc it either. So, oh no, Kinetic, yes, Flash.
Kinetic in the rough spot. Oh no! Gets the dash out there. Nicely played. That was starting to get steamy in there, because with the Rise of Dynasty on the other side of that brush, close call.
Yeah, and I thought he will just flash out, but no, he plays with the Gale Force, which is a good tool as Misfortune, because you can always use the Gale Force to get into the fight with the ultimate. So if you need to close the gap for a better angle with the ultimate, you can always just dash to the better angle. So it's a good tool for Misfortune players to deal more damage in those team fights, and usually you are not really that reliable on a good mythic item, just because Misfortune usually is just the ultimate bot, so he will just ult and win a team fight anyway. So Kraken Slayer is a good item, but she has not really like the biggest time to auto attack anyway. Then there are some like poking Misfortunes who build like Liantris, for example, or there are some armor pen Misfortunes where the mythic doesn't matter anyway. So just going for this really good Gale Force to dodge skills, to just get into a better position, is really like the best decision from terms of the item build.
It's definitely very good item on there. I don't know if I imagined this, but I believe at the very start of the split there was a discourse between the with Kinetic kind of refusing to use Gale Force, pick it up as an item, but look at him now.
Look at him
doing so well. And now we take the whole slew of tier 1 turrets already on sides of SLOTHS with that Herald on the mid lane. SquarePants tries to deny a bit, but now we have an all-in from the SLOTHS, and we get the kill onto Scala. SquarePants has to be careful. He gets saved by the Lulu ultimate. We get tier 2 turret for the SLOTHS. This Dynasty is pushed back.
And what a domination there. 9k after 19 minutes. They don't get killed, they don't lose turrets. Like, it's not a clean game because they lost one Drake, but I mean, you can't say it's a clean game because nobody got killed. Like, you can define clean like you want. And what a dominant like upcoming maybe victory by SLOTHS. And that's against one of the best teams in the league right now, against Dynasty, and against the team they already lost against. So, and they just like they just stomped them right now, and it's really tough to see, especially for a player like Frankie. He has like perfect CSing right now. He just sits with like 200 minions after 20 minutes, so it's like the perfect number, and he is just sitting at 0-0-0, so he did not really done a lot of things wrong, but he can't really carry right now, and that's really a sad thing to see.
Yes, absolutely. Simply pick him up. We pick a second drink on sides of the Rift Sloths. And yeah, just keeping the pressure on Dynasty.
It's so tough, man. It's so tough, and especially with the soul. I mean, they will. Oh, they'll try to dive.
Let's try to tower dive here on Bakan, but TP coming in from Lex, helping out. Now SquarePants getting killed with the passive might still get some damage out. Now Skellen has to be a bit careful, as well as DYNASTY. They do get the kill onto Skellen. Now Bakan is starting to flee, but without the Cyclone anymore. Skellen has to be careful. Falls to the hand, or to the hammer of Bakan. Sniller now is getting chased by Kinetic, Batu and Liao, and DYNASTY just tries to ride the wall, but it's not enough, and he gets picked up by Liao. And that's 4 kills for the Rift Sloths.
Yeah, he sadly waited a little bit too long with the ride. I think could have maybe go out, but they at least get the first kill of their game. But it's now 1-13. They will lose the Baron. They will be like 10k behind, and it's pretty much over for them. Dynasty, in my opinion, can't win this game anymore. Rift Sloths will just snowball out of control after they all go base now. They can just push 3 waves. They have the sideline, the side lanes, which are winning. So Wukan can definitely 1v2, and even Quen can 1v2, maybe even 1v3. Who knows? And the rest of the team can just like safely group as a 3-man squad. So they can definitely go for 3 pushing lanes with the Baron buff and just siege them down. And there's not a lot of ways out of the situation here for Dynasty, and it looks tough, man. It looks tough.
Yes, absolutely tough situation. The lead is definitely in favor of Rift Sloths as they keep on the pressure. Now, moving in unison between Liao, Batu and Kinetic. Now they pick up a kill on DYNASTY, was all alone in the jungle, getting caught by Legs and the rest. Now we take that tier 2 turret, as well as SquarePants, who is trying to protect it to the best he can. Man, trying to lose the ability to talk here.
Yeah, it's too exciting. I can't talk as well.
Yes, and we take the inhib turret now. Meanwhile, on the bot side, we have Bakan pushing in with Skellen trying to protect that turret. SquarePants starting to get real low, should head back to the fountain for a bit. We take that inhib and decide to fall back towards the mid lane, where a wave is awaiting us. Just perfect timing there from the Rift Sloths.
Yeah, the macro game is on point, the wave control, but there's the last engage maybe here from
the side. 3 people, Cyclone coming in, we get the damage out, but we start to get low ourselves. They get the kill onto him. Liao getting slow, very himself. Kinetic now has to flee from SquarePants, who came in just for him with barely some HP left, is able to survive. Only Liao up to now having fallen from the Rift Sloths, as Lex also is forced to start falling back here. SquarePants also with 1 pixel bar of HP is able to make his way to the mid lane river and flee. What a close call though for some of the Rift Sloths members.
It was a 1-for-1. I mean, just trading 1-for-1 with such a disadvantage is really amazing. But I mean, in the end, they're still losing an inhib turret. They're still losing a whole inhib. So it's not that worth to trade 1-for-1. But they trade. They trade really the hardest. Especially like Kinetic had to fight for his life. It would have been a big shutdown, but they didn't get him, and then it was even close on Klex and on Dark Unique. Was a really close trade there. In the end, Dynasty is just 2 behind, man. Just imagine them just sitting on like an even gold or something. Then it would have been the ace, but with just the pockets of Dynasty of Rift are just huger. They just have bigger wallets, and they can just smash them with all the gold in the bags, and it hurt, man. It will just hurt them, and yeah, what a crazy game from Rift. Just cementing themselves on the first place with such a game, probably. I mean, it's still not over, but 14k, man,
That's
it's crazy.
14k gold. 8 turrets done for 0 and having the advantage in terms of drakes, as the next one is spawning just now. Of course, the layout is a bit wrong. It's not a mountain drake, it's a camp tank drake.
Oh, shock blast.
And
So
they
huge.
keep push and pressure onto Dynasty. They really want to get that bot turret, but it's just a diversion because Lags in the meantime pushed the wave towards that Nexus, now forcing some members of Dynasty moving over there. Timing is quite unfortunate there for SLOTHS because their bot wave is just out, meaning that Dynasty does find some respite into moving over there without having too much to risk on that bot lane turret.
Yeah, and they can try to force it just because Lex can just space race.
Yes, and here we have the engage onto SLOTHS now coming in. Liao already very slow, but Snilla is as well. We do get the interrupt on the bullet time, but we die for that. Now it's Squarepants who's also going to die. And Lex, in the meantime, just casually doing that Nexus as Frankie is just walking next to him like, oh, what's going on here? We're doing a Nexus. Very nice. And that's the win for the SLOTHS, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and that was dominant. I mean, I even would say there was no chance for Dynasty to win it. And just by clean converting this game, just by playing a little bit better in the early game, and I don't know, just by the draft. I mean, I said it in the champs, like 3 losing lanes. There isn't really much to say. And Scarron with 3 losing lanes just has no pressure. He will be contested on every single scuttle crab, for example. He couldn't really invade. He couldn't really like get deep vision just because every time he makes a aggressive step, there are just 2 laners ahead of him. So it's crazy to play with like those 3 pushed in lanes and so much pressure. And he couldn't really like get the early game he wanted. Like every single other game, he just gets like the first blood on bot lane and stuff. But this time it didn't really work out, and Dynasty just got outdrafted and outplayed really, really hard. And I mean, it's good to see for a Rift fan, but it's hard to see for Dynasty.
Yes, absolutely. And we can maybe take a look at the standings, which are updated as now, as we've mentioned earlier, SLOTHS cement their position as current king of this second division here at the ESLOL. And Oma able to demark themselves from Dynasty at the second spot, sorry, while Dynasty does fall toward the third one. Now, we have some interesting stuff going on in fourth spot as Reapers were able to get their position away from Pertinax, cementing themselves as, well, fourth team, or fourth spot team now, which is the one going to the playoffs with the next ones. Just under them, of course, Pertinax having suffered that one loss against them just today, do fall to the fifth spot, and now bottom of the ladder we have Aurora, which just took a 3-win against Adverse today, which are out of the running, of course, and now Once Upon a Team are 7th with that.
Yeah. And I mean, now if you just look at that, it could mean that Reapers will make playoffs. So I would win my bet in the end, but they will have a really tough schedule ahead of them. Just playing 2 times against Dynasty. 1 time on Friday. We maybe could look at the schedule for next Friday if it's possible for, yeah, there it is. Like we will just see Aurora against Pertinax, of course, then Rift against a Once Upon a Team, and then we probably will swap, but the tournament admins need to decide that probably. We will probably swap match 3 and match 4 now that Adverse is out of the competition, so that we would need to wait for a whole game. But I think especially like this match 4 with Dynasty against Reapers will be like the best match of this Friday, just because we have like a really crazy matchup, and Reapers still with the last couple of shots to get into this playoffs race. So would be, or they are still in the playoffs race. I mean, they are leading now, but would really help to win it, especially because Pertinax probably has the easier matchup against Aurora.
Yes, so now that all the engines are turning at full speed, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to not miss any other streams, as we have 3 more game days, one this Friday and 2 more next week, where we'll be playing week 4, which has been rescheduled to next week. And then we'll already be at the playoffs of this split. Things are going really fast, and there's definitely a lot to be played still for some teams. So definitely stay tuned, and we hope to see you Friday, next Wednesday, and the Friday after that for the next few streams. So, see you soon.